Welcome to the Deep Sleep Science Channel. Tonight, we step into a world where invisible energy hums through cities, where entire skylines glow because of ideas once imagined in a quiet mind, and where one man looked at lightning itself and wondered if it could be tamed, shaped, and sent across the earth. Nikola Tesla was not just an inventor of machines, but a thinker who saw patterns in nature others overlooked, who imagined power flowing without wires, and who believed the planet itself could become part of a vast, connected system. As the night settles around you, we'll gently explore the life and ideas of a man who helped turn electricity from a curiosity into the foundation of modern life, while also dreaming far beyond what his time could be to fully achieve. And before you drift deeper into this calm journey, you might like to leave a quiet like, subscribe, or share a thought, so you can return whenever you wish to wander again through these softly glowing discoveries. Nikola Tesla became known as one of the great pioneers of alternating current, often called AC, a form of electricity that rises and falls in direction many times each second. This was not just a technical detail. It was a breakthrough that changed how power could be sent across entire regions, making electricity practical for ordinary homes, businesses, factories, and cities. His work helped turn electricity from a limited local service into something that could support modern life on a much larger scale. One of Tesla's most important early ideas was the rotating magnetic field, a concept that sounds abstract at first, but had enormous practical value. By creating a magnetic field that appeared to spin, he found a way to produce smooth motion inside electrical machines without older, more troublesome designs. This principle became the foundation for many AC motors and helped engineers build systems that were more reliable, efficient, and better suited for large-scale use. Tesla invented the AC induction motor, which became one of the defining machines of the electrical age. Instead of depending on many of the more fragile parts used in earlier motors, this design allowed electrical energy to be converted into motion in a simpler and more durable way. That made it useful not only in industry, but eventually in countless devices and appliances that people would use in everyday life. He also contributed to the development of the polyphase electrical system, which was one of the great hidden structures behind modern power networks. A polyphase system uses multiple alternating currents working together in a coordinated pattern, which makes it easier to transmit power and operate motors efficiently. This was one of those quiet engineering advances that changed the world not by being flashy, but by making the entire electrical system stronger and more practical. Tesla's work helped form the foundation of modern electrical power systems, especially the kind that serve huge numbers of people over wide areas. What made this so important was that he was not merely inventing one device at a time. He was helping define a whole system of generation, transmission, and use. In that sense, his impact reached far beyond a laboratory and into the structure of modern civilization itself. AC electricity can travel long distances far more effectively than the low-voltage direct current systems that were competing with it in Tesla's era. This mattered because electricity loses usefulness if it can only move a short distance from where it is created. With AC, engineers could raise voltage for transmission and lower it again for safe use, which made large-scale power distribution possible. That simple advantage helped decide the future of electrification. Westinghouse licensed Tesla's AC patents in 1888, and that agreement became one of the key moments in the history of electrical technology. It meant Tesla's ideas were no longer only theoretical or experimental. They were now part of an industrial effort to build a real power system that could compete on a national and international scale. Through Westinghouse, Tesla's inventions gained the commercial pathway they needed to influence the wider world. Tesla collaborated with George Westinghouse to promote AC power, And that partnership was crucial in turning his engineering ideas into infrastructure. Westinghouse brought industrial resources, business strength, and a willingness to challenge the dominant electrical model of the day. Tesla brought the inventions and the system-level vision. Together, they helped make AC power not just an interesting idea, but the foundation of the electrical world that followed. Tesla's system was used to power the Chicago World's Fair in 1893, one of the great public demonstrations of electrical technology in the 19th century. For visitors, this was not just a scientific exhibit. It was a dramatic display of what widespread electric lighting could look like when managed on a grand scale. The fair helped people see, in a direct and unforgettable way, that AC power was capable of lighting vast spaces beautifully and effectively. That demonstration in Chicago showcased alternating current to a huge audience and helped move the debate over electrical systems out of technical circles and into public imagination. Millions of people could now witness what Tesla's system made possible. It was one thing to argue in newspapers or boardrooms. It was another thing entirely for people to stand in a brilliantly lit exhibition and see the future glowing all around them. Tesla's work contributed to the first hydroelectric power plant at Niagara Falls, one of the most famous engineering achievements associated with his name. Niagara was not chosen by accident. It represented immense natural energy, and the challenge was to turn that raw force into usable electrical power for cities and industry. Tesla's AC system helped to make that possible, showing that nature's power could be captured and sent outward in a practical way. The Niagara Falls project marked a major success for AC technology because it proved that electricity could be generated at one place and delivered meaningfully to another. This was far more than an impressive demonstration. It was a turning point in industrial history. It showed that electrical systems based on Tesla's ideas could operate at the scale needed for real economic and social transformation. Tesla's innovations made large-scale electrification possible, which is one of the clearest reasons his legacy still matters. Without systems that could efficiently move power over distance and convert it into useful work, electric light and machinery would have remained far more limited and expensive. His contributions helped make electricity something that entire societies could depend on, not just a curiosity for wealthy buildings or experimental sites. AC electricity became the global standard for power distribution, and that quiet fact says a great deal about Tesla's influence. In many ways, the ultimate proof of his importance is not a statue, a dramatic story, or even a famous photograph. It is the ordinary reality that power grids around the world still reflect the basic advantages of the AC systems he helped establish. Tesla invented the Tesla coil, a device that became one of the most visually dramatic symbols of electrical experimentation. It is a transformer system designed to create extremely high voltage, and in public imagination, it is closely tied to crackling arcs of light and spectacular electrical displays. But beyond its appearance, it also played an important role in the development of high-frequency electrical research and later radio work. The Tesla coil produces high-voltage, low-current electricity, which allowed Tesla to explore effects that were difficult to study with more ordinary equipment. This kind of apparatus made it possible to investigate resonance, lighting, wireless signaling, and other advanced topics in a new way. So even though people often remember the sparks, the deeper importance of the Tesla coil lies in what it allowed scientists and engineers to test. His inventions contributed to early radio technology, even though radio later became associated with a wider group of inventors and competing claims. Tesla's role mattered because he worked with high-frequency currents, resonant circuits, and wireless signaling before radio became a mature global medium. His patents and experiments helped shape the technical background from which radio communication would emerge. Tesla experimented with wireless transmission of energy, an idea that captured his imagination for many years. He was not content merely to send signals through space. He wanted to know whether usable power itself might one day be transmitted without wires. That ambition was far ahead of practical reality, but it reveals the scale of his thinking. He was always reaching for systems that would transform the entire relationship between energy and distance. He envisioned wireless communication long before modern systems appeared, which is one reason later generations often describe him as being ahead of his time. He imagined a world in which information could move rapidly over great distances without the need for direct physical connection. That vision was not identical to modern telecommunications in every detail, but it captured a future in which the planet would be linked through invisible networks. Tesla's ideas influenced technologies like remote control, which may seem ordinary now but were astonishing in his time. The thought that a machine could be guided at a distance without wires opened a new chapter in engineering. It suggested that communication did not have to stop at sending messages. It could also direct action, movement, and behavior in machines. That insight would echo through later developments in automation and robotics. Tesla's work also influenced modern robotics concepts because he understood early on that control and response could be built into machines guided from afar. When a device can receive instructions wirelessly and act on them, it begins to move beyond simple mechanism towards something more dynamic and programmable. Tesla recognized that potential long before robotics became a formal field. Tesla believed electricity could be transmitted wirelessly across the globe, which was one of his grandest and most ambitious convictions. Whether or not the full scale of that dream was practical, it shows the extraordinary reach of his imagination. He did not think in small local units alone. He thought about Earth itself as a possible medium for connection, power, and communication on a planetary scale. Tesla's work included concepts for wireless power towers, showing that his wireless ambitions were not vague hopes, but active engineering goals. He imagined structures that would help send energy and signals across long distances without the normal web of wires. In his mind, these towers were part of a larger system that could connect the world in a new and more unified way. One such project was the Wardenclyffe Tower, perhaps the most famous unfinished symbol of Tesla's wireless dreams. Built on Long Island, it was intended to be part of a broader transmission system rather than just a single isolated machine. Wardenclyffe has become legendary partly because it stood at the edge between real engineering effort and an immense, unfinished future. The Wardenclyffe Tower aimed to transmit electricity without wires, and that goal made it one of the boldest technological ventures of its time. Tesla hoped it would eventually support not only communication, but the movement of electrical energy itself. Even in failure, it remains a striking example of how far he was willing to push his ideas beyond the limits of accepted practice. Tesla had financial backing from J.P. Morgan at one point, which shows that some of the most powerful people of the era took his vision seriously. Morgan's involvement gave Wardenclyffe credibility and allowed construction to begin. Yet it also revealed one of the recurring patterns in Tesla's life. His ideas were often grand enough to attract attention, but difficult enough to sustain long-term financial support. Morgan eventually withdrew support from Tesla's wireless project, and that loss of backing became one of the major reasons Wardenclyffe failed to reach its full intended form. The problem was not only technical, it was also financial and strategic. Tesla's visions often required more time, more money, and more patience than investors were prepared to give. The project was never fully completed due to funding issues, which is an important reminder that invention is not governed by science alone. Even a brilliant idea can struggle if the materials, business model, and backing do not hold together. Tesla's life repeatedly shows that frontier ideas can be limited not just by engineering, but by the practical realities of cost and support. Tesla's experiments sometimes involved extremely high voltages, which helped give him his lasting image as a master of electrical spectacle. But these experiments were not performed for drama alone. High voltage and high frequency allowed him to explore resonance, discharge, lighting, and wireless behavior in ways that more modest apparatus could not reveal. He demonstrated electricity passing through his body safely in public lectures, which made a powerful impression on audiences. To onlookers, it seemed almost unbelievable that someone could stand amid such effects without harm. But these demonstrations were carefully designed to show that electrical phenomena could be more complex and more controllable than people assumed. Tesla understood that visible proof could educate as well as astonish. Tesla often performed public demonstrations of his inventions, and this became one of the defining features of his career. He was not only an inventor working in private, he was also a communicator who knew how to bring invisible forces into human view. By turning experiments into memorable events, he helped people feel that a new age of technology was arriving before their eyes. These demonstrations helped popularize electrical science because they translated difficult principles into memorable experiences. Many people could not follow the mathematics behind alternating current, resonance, or wireless transmission. But they could understand the glow of a lamp, the motion of a controlled machine, or the dramatic crackle of a coil. Tesla used spectacle as a bridge between science and public understanding. Tesla worked during the period known as the War of Currents, one of the most famous technological struggles of the 19th century. This was not simply a personal quarrel between inventors. It was a battle over which electrical system would shape the future of cities, industries, and homes. The outcome would affect how power was generated, transmitted, and sold for generations. This conflict involved AC versus DC electrical systems, with each side representing a different technical and commercial vision. Direct current worked well over short distances, but alternating current had clear advantages for large-scale distribution. The debate mattered because society was deciding, in real time, what kind of electrical world it would build. Tesla supported AC, while Edison supported DC, and this opposition helped turn engineering into public drama. But underneath the rivalry was a deeper question about efficiency, distance, cost, and infrastructure. Tesla's side prevailed not because it was more theatrical, but because it better matched the practical needs of a growing electrical civilization. AC ultimately became the dominant system worldwide, and that outcome is one of the strongest measures of Tesla's lasting importance. When a technical system becomes global, it means it has proven itself across cultures, industries, and generations. Tesla helped place the world on that path, and the result still surrounds us every day in the structure of modern power distribution. Tesla's work contributed to modern electrical grids, which are among the most important infrastructures in human society. A power grid is not just a collection of wires. It is an organized system that balances generation, transmission, and use on a vast scale. Tesla's contributions helped make that kind of coordinated electrical world possible. His ideas helped power homes, industries, and cities by solving the problem of how to move electrical energy from where it is generated to where it is needed. That may sound straightforward now, but in his time, it was a profound challenge. His system-level thinking helped electricity become part of daily life rather than a rare or isolated service. Tesla's name is now associated with a unit of magnetic field strength, which shows how deeply his work entered the language of science itself. To have a unit named after you is a sign that your contribution was not simply historical or commercial. It became part of the way science measures and understands the physical world. The Tesla, written as T, is used in physics measurements of magnetic flux density. This is especially fitting because magnetism and rotating magnetic fields were central to Tesla's most important breakthroughs. The name survives not only in stories about his life, but in the practical vocabulary of science and engineering. Tesla's contributions span both electrical and mechanical engineering, which helps explain why he is remembered as more than a specialist. He did not confine himself to a narrow corner of invention. He worked across systems of power, motion, resonance, control, and machinery. That breadth is one reason his career still feels unusually expansive. He was also considered a futurist because his thinking often moved beyond immediate devices toward whole future worlds shaped by those devices. Tesla did not simply ask what a machine could do today. He asked what society might become if such machines spread everywhere. That kind of forward-looking imagination became a defining part of his reputation. Tesla predicted wireless communication networks decades in advance, and that is one of the clearest examples of how far his imagination reached. He understood that signals could move through space without the visible cords people were used to seeing. He imagined a connected world long before the technologies of that world had fully arrived. Tesla had a strong interest in future technologies and innovation throughout his life. Even after major successes in power engineering, he continued reaching toward new possibilities rather than settling into one completed achievement. That restless movement toward what might come next was part of his personality as much as part of his technical work. Globally, Tesla held hundreds of patents across multiple countries, revealing that his inventiveness was broad, sustained, and internationally recognized. Patents matter because they show not just ideas, but attempts to define working inventions clearly enough to protect them. His large patent record demonstrates that he was not living on reputation alone. He was repeatedly producing new designs across many areas. Tesla held over 100 US patents during his lifetime, a remarkable number even before considering his patents in other countries. This tells us that his creativity was not limited to a single famous invention. Again and again, he transformed concepts into formal technical claims, which is one of the clearest signs of an active and productive inventor. Tesla established laboratories in New York for his research, and those spaces became centers for some of his most important experimental work. They were places where theoretical ideas could be turned into apparatus, and apparatus into public demonstrations. In those laboratories, Tesla built not only machines, but the image of himself as an inventor operating at the frontier of electrical science. Tesla conducted experiments with high-frequency electrical currents, an area that opened the door to many of his later advances in lighting, resonance, wireless work, and public display. High-frequency electricity behaved differently from the lower-frequency current of ordinary systems, and Tesla was fascinated by those differences. His experiments in this area helped expand what engineers thought electricity might be used for. He also contributed to early developments in X-ray research, showing once again that his interests were not confined to power distribution alone. By working with discharge tubes and unusual electrical effects, he explored phenomena related to forms of radiation that were only beginning to be understood. This part of his work reminds us that he moved across the edges of multiple scientific frontiers. Tesla experimented with electrical lighting, including neon and fluorescent forms, because he saw lighting as more than a matter of simple illumination. He was interested in efficiency, visual effect, and new methods of producing light through electrical discharge. His efforts helped expand the possibilities of what electric lighting could look like beyond the familiar incandescent bulb. Tesla's ideas continue to influence modern technology because many of the systems and principles he worked on did not end with his era. Alternating current, induction motors, high-voltage research, remote control, and wireless thinking all continued to grow in importance long after his lifetime. His legacy remains alive not only in history books, but in the technologies that still shape the modern world. In the late 1890, Tesla turned more and more of his attention toward wireless transmission. By this stage in his life, He was no longer thinking only about motors, generators, and city power systems. He was starting to imagine a world in which energy and information might move through space without the usual web of wires. That shift shows how his mind often moved from practical success into even larger and more ambitious questions. Tesla hoped to send not only signals but also usable electrical power without wires. This was a very bold goal because sending a message is one challenge, while sending enough energy to do real work is much harder. He was trying to go beyond communication and toward a new model of how the world might be powered. Even when the full dream proved difficult, it revealed just how large his technological vision had become. He believed that Earth itself might be used as part of a transmission system. In simple terms, Tesla did not see the planet merely as ground beneath our feet. He thought it might act as a vast electrical medium that could help carry energy and signals over long distances. This idea was unusual and remains one of the most distinctive parts of his wireless thinking. Tesla did not accept the standard Hertzian view of radio waves in the same way later radio engineers did. Many other researchers were moving toward the understanding of wireless transmission that became the basis of modern radio. Tesla, however, followed a somewhat different path, emphasizing other possible mechanisms of transmission. This difference helps explain why some of his later wireless work remained highly original, but also controversial. Instead, he pursued a model that emphasized conduction through Earth and the atmosphere. He believed that carefully designed electrical systems could set up large-scale effects that would travel through the planet and the air around it. In his view, the world itself might participate in the transmission process. That idea shaped much of his later experimental work. To test these ideas, Tesla built increasingly powerful apparatus. He did not want to stay at the level of small laboratory demonstrations. He wanted equipment large enough to push electrical effects much further, so that he could study them on a more dramatic scale. This pattern appears often in his career. When a question captured his imagination, he tried to build bigger tools to chase the answer. In 1899, Tesla moved his large-scale experiments to Colorado Springs. This was an important step because he needed more room, more freedom, and more distance from the practical limits of crowded urban laboratories. Colorado Springs gave him a place where he could carry out very large electrical experiments that might have been difficult or dangerous in New York. Colorado Springs offered space for larger high-voltage work than his New York laboratory allowed. There, Tesla could set up more ambitious equipment and test stronger discharges. The setting was useful not just because it was roomy, but because it supported the scale of experimentation he wanted. He was no longer working like a modest workshop inventor. He was trying to explore electrical behavior at the edge of what seemed possible. At Colorado Springs, he built a special experimental station devoted to high-frequency and high-voltage research. This was not just a temporary corner for a few tests. It was a serious effort to create an environment focused on advanced electrical investigation. The station became one of the most famous research sites associated with Tesla's name. There, Tesla worked on what he called a magnifying transmitter. This was a highly enlarged resonant transformer system related to the Tesla coil, but intended for far greater ambitions. He believed it could help him study large-scale transmission effects and perhaps even global electrical communication. The name itself reflects his desire to amplify electrical action far beyond the ordinary. The magnifying transmitter was an enlarged resonant transformer system related to the Tesla coil. It took the principles of resonance and high voltage that Tesla already knew well and pushed them into a much more ambitious experimental form. Rather than being a simple demonstration device, it was part of a much larger plan to investigate transmission on a grand scale. Tesla's Colorado Springs apparatus became famous for producing enormous artificial electrical discharges. The visual effect of these discharges was extraordinary, with huge arcs of electricity that made the laboratory seem almost unreal to observers. Yet behind the spectacle was serious research into resonance, voltage, and electrical behavior. Tesla was not making lightning only for show. He was using dramatic effects to probe difficult scientific questions. Photographs from that laboratory helped create Tesla's enduring image as the master of lightning. These images became some of the most famous visual symbols of his career. They showed him surrounded by powerful electrical activity, calm in the middle of immense force. That combination of science, danger, control, and theatrical beauty helped fix his public image for generations. He used the Colorado station to explore resonance on a much larger scale than before. Resonance means that a system can respond very strongly when driven at the right frequency, and Tesla was deeply fascinated by this principle. He believed it held the key to many natural and technological processes. In Colorado, he tried to test how powerful resonance could become when expanded far beyond ordinary laboratory size. Tesla later claimed that work there led him to the idea of terrestrial stationary waves. In simple language, he believed that Earth might support large-scale standing electrical patterns under the right conditions. This concept became one of the intellectual foundations of his later wireless ambitions. Whether fully correct or not, it shows how he was thinking not only about machines, but about the electrical behavior of the planet itself. He took the idea of terrestrial stationary waves as evidence that Earth could conduct electrical energy globally. This was a dramatic conclusion, because it suggested the possibility of a worldwide transmission network built around the natural properties of the planet. For Tesla, such an idea was not a fantasy, but a serious engineering direction. It became one of the central inspirations behind his next major project. Tesla also reported detecting strange rhythmic signals while using sensitive receiving equipment in Colorado. These signals caught his attention because they seemed unusual and patterned. At the time, wireless detection was still a developing field, and many kinds of electrical interference were not yet well understood. For Tesla, these signals became another sign that the world might hold hidden electrical possibilities. He speculated that those signals might have been intelligent in origin. This was one of the moments that made him seem especially visionary, and, to some observers, eccentric. He wondered whether the rhythmic patterns could have come from another world or another form of intelligence. Even though later interpretations are far more cautious, this episode reveals how far his imagination could stretch when faced with the unknown. That speculation contributed to his public image as both visionary and eccentric. Tesla was admired for his brilliance, but he also made statements that seemed to place him on the edge between disciplined science and grand imaginative leaps. This mixture became part of his legend. People saw in him both the engineer who changed the power system and the dreamer who pursued ideas that seemed almost cosmic in scale. Colorado Springs was not just a publicity chapter in Tesla's life. It was central to his wireless ambitions. The work he did there shaped how he thought about global transmission, resonance, and the possibility of connecting distant places through enormous electrical systems. It was one of the major turning points that led directly to his next bold venture. He believed that large resonant systems might allow global transmission of messages and power. This belief was at the heart of his larger plan for the future. Tesla was not thinking in terms of one city or one building. He was imagining a worldwide network in which carefully tuned systems could send information and perhaps energy over immense distances. That is part of what makes his vision still feel so striking. After Colorado Springs, Tesla turned toward building a permanent wireless station on Long Island. He wanted to move from experiment toward infrastructure, from temporary testing toward a lasting installation. This shift showed that he was trying to turn his grand theories into a functioning system. He was not content to remain in the stage of speculation. That station became known as Wardenclyffe, Today, the name carries a kind of quiet mystery, partly because the project was never fully realized. But in Tesla's mind, it was not meant to be a curiosity. It was meant to be part of a major new era in communication and power transmission. Wardenclyffe included both a laboratory building and a large transmission tower. This combination reveals that the site was designed for both research and operation. Tesla needed a place to refine ideas, build equipment, and test large-scale transmission methods. But he also wanted a structure that could perform as part of a wider system. The project joined theory, experiment, and infrastructure in one place. Tesla acquired a large tract of land in Shoreham, Long Island, for the Wardenclyffe project. This was a serious physical commitment, showing that he intended to build more than a symbolic experiment. He was laying down the foundation for a substantial installation. The very scale of the site reflected the scale of his ambitions. He envisioned Wardenclyffe as part of a broader worldwide wireless system. In his mind, it was not supposed to stand alone. It was one node in a future network that could connect distant places through electrical transmission. Tesla often thought this way, seeing single devices as parts of much larger systems that had not yet been built. His plans included sending messages, media content, and possibly electrical power through a network of stations. This is one reason people often describe Tesla as ahead of his time. He imagined communication not as isolated dots, but as a connected global system. In a broad and early way, he was picturing forms of worldwide connection that later became central to modern life. J.P. Morgan provided early financial backing for the Wardenclyffe venture. Morgan's support mattered because it gave Tesla access to the resources needed for a large and expensive project. It also signaled that powerful investors believed Tesla's ideas might have commercial and strategic value. Invention at this scale required money as much as imagination. Funding problems soon became one of the project's greatest obstacles. Wardenclyffe was not a simple machine that could be completed quickly and cheaply. It was a large, demanding effort, built around ideas that were difficult to explain, difficult to test fully, and expensive to pursue. As often happened in Tesla's life, the size of the dream strained the patience of those paying for it. Tesla's wireless plans were larger and more expensive than many of his backers expected. Investors are often comfortable with a project that has a clear limit, a clear product, and a predictable return. Tesla, however, kept expanding the scope of what he wanted Wardenclyffe to do. That widening ambition helped make the venture harder to finance. Wardenclyffe was never completed into the global system Tesla imagined. This is one of the saddest patterns in his story. Again and again, he could see far ahead, but the world around him could not always follow him all the way there. The project remained as evidence of both his brilliance and the difficulty of turning vast vision into durable infrastructure. The failure of Wardenclyffe became a financial turning point in Tesla's life. It marked the difference between his earlier period of major practical triumph and his later years of increasing struggle. After Wardenclyffe, the gap between his imaginative reach and his financial stability grew harder to overcome. In many ways, the rest of his life was shaped by that unfinished project. By the 1910 tie-ins, the facility had effectively been abandoned. The dream of a fully functioning worldwide transmission station had faded, and the site no longer represented a future that seemed close at hand. This abandonment is important because it shows how quickly even bold scientific projects can lose momentum when money and support disappear. The Wardenclyffe Tower was demolished in 1917. By then, it had become less a functioning technology than a burden tied to debt and unrealized hopes. Its destruction has often been surrounded by dramatic stories, but the simplest truth is that a failed project met a practical end. Even so, The tower's symbolic power survived long after the structure itself was gone. Contrary to popular legend, the tower's destruction was tied to debt and foreclosure rather than a secret success. This matters because Tesla's life is often wrapped in myths. The real story is already powerful enough. Wardenclyffe did not vanish because it had changed the world in secret. It vanished because visionary engineering can still be defeated by ordinary financial realities. The Wardenclyffe laboratory building survived after the tower was gone. That remaining structure has become especially meaningful because it connects the present to Tesla's most ambitious wireless project. Even when the tower disappeared, the laboratory remained as a physical trace of what he had tried to build. That laboratory is now preserved as Tesla's last remaining laboratory site. This gives it special historical importance. It is not just a building connected to a famous name. It is one of the last direct spaces where Tesla's large-scale experimental world can still be felt in material form. Tesla's dream at Wardenclyffe shows how strongly he thought in planetary rather than local terms. Most inventors are remembered for solving a defined problem. Tesla often moved far beyond that level, imagining systems that would operate across continents or even around the globe. Wardenclyffe captures that habit of thinking at the scale of the whole Earth. He was trying to build an infrastructure for worldwide connection decades before modern global communications networks existed. This is one of the reasons his story continues to fascinate people. He did not merely invent within the boundaries of his time. He often pressed against futures that would only partially arrive long after he was gone. That is one reason Tesla is often described as a futurist as well as an inventor. A conventional inventor improves or creates devices. A futurist also asks how those devices might change society, communication, movement, and daily life. Tesla did both. He built machines, but he also imagined entire worlds shaped by them. Tesla's interests extended far beyond the power grid. Although alternating current remains the most solid core of his fame, he did not stop there. He explored wireless systems, oscillators, turbines, lighting, remote control, and other fields that show a much wider technical curiosity. His career was broad in a way that still feels unusual. He worked on oscillators, discharge tubes, turbines, and mechanical devices in addition to electrical systems. This range matters because it shows that Tesla was not only a specialist in one branch of engineering. He was a restless experimental thinker who moved from one class of problem to another, often guided by broad principles like resonance, efficiency, and simplification. One of his later mechanical inventions was the Tesla turbine. This design is often less famous than his electrical work, but it shows that he kept searching for fresh engineering solutions throughout his life. Even after major contributions to AC power, he continued trying to rethink how machines themselves might work. The Tesla turbine was a bladeless turbine design. That alone makes it stand out, because most people imagine turbines as machines filled with visible blades. Tesla tried a different approach, using smooth discs and the behavior of flowing fluid to generate motion. The design reflects his habit of questioning standard assumptions. Instead of blades, the turbine used smooth discs and fluid flow to produce rotation. In simple terms, Tesla was trying to let the motion of a fluid pull along closely spaced surfaces in a more elegant way. He believed this could reduce some of the weaknesses found in conventional turbine designs and create a mechanically refined alternative. Tesla believed his turbine could be highly efficient and mechanically elegant. Efficiency mattered to him, but so did beauty of principle. He often preferred designs that seemed simple, clean, and deeply logical. The turbine is another example of how he looked for order and hidden power inside carefully arranged physical systems. He also patented a pump based on related principles. This shows that he was not just playing with an isolated mechanical idea. He was exploring a whole family of designs built on similar fluid dynamic behavior. When Tesla found a promising principle, he often tried to apply it in more than one direction. Tesla's turbine concept showed that he kept searching for radical design simplification, even outside electrical transmission. He often seemed drawn to systems that could do more with fewer parts or through subtler physical effects. That desire for elegant reduction appears again and again across his inventions. He later worked with Alice Chalmers in Milwaukee on turbine-related efforts. This phase of his life reminds us that he continued trying to bring new ideas into industrial reality even after his greatest early triumphs. He had not lost the urge to build, test, and persuade. He was still trying to find a place where his newer concepts might take hold. Those later engineering efforts did not restore the level of commercial success he had enjoyed from his AC patents. This was one of the recurring disappointments of his later career. He remained inventive and ambitious, but the world did not reward all of his later work the way it had rewarded his early contributions to power systems. Tesla also worked on mechanical oscillators. These devices fit naturally with his larger fascination with resonance, vibration, and amplification. He was deeply interested in systems that could build strength through repeated, well-timed motion. The oscillator reflects the same kind of thinking that appears in both his electrical and mechanical work. His mechanical experiments reflected the same fascination with resonance that appeared in his electrical work. This is important because it reveals continuity in his thinking. Even when the machines changed, the underlying questions often remained similar. Tesla was repeatedly drawn to the idea that properly tuned systems could produce effects much larger than their simple components might suggest. He pursued the idea that carefully tuned systems could amplify effects dramatically. This belief guided much of his work, from electrical resonance to mechanical vibration. Tesla saw tuning and timing as sources of hidden power. In his view, great results did not always require brute force. Sometimes they required finding the exact pattern nature responded to most strongly. Tesla also held patents related to producing ozone, which shows that his curiosity reached into areas that sat between electrical engineering, chemistry, and practical applications. Ozone is a fall of oxygen made of 3 oxygen atoms instead of the usual 2, and it has strong reactive properties. Tesla was interested in how electrical discharge could be used to create it, which tells us that he was not only thinking about power systems and giant machines. He was also exploring how electricity could be used to generate useful physical effects on a much smaller and more specialized level. His ozone work shows that he explored chemical and medical adjacent applications of electrical discharge, not only power and motors. In other words, Tesla was interested in what happens when electricity interacts with matter in subtle ways, not just in how it can spin a motor or light a city. This side of his work reveals a more experimental Tesla, someone who looked closely at the side effects and secondary uses of electrical phenomena. He was often trying to uncover hidden possibilities inside the behavior of energy itself. He experimented with carbon button lamps as well, which reflects his continued interest in unusual lighting technology. These lamps were part of a broader effort to understand how different materials responded inside electrical devices, and how light could be produced more effectively or in novel ways. Tesla did not treat lighting as a solved problem. He kept examining how electricity could create illumination through different methods, materials, and forms of discharge. Tesla's inventions were often aimed at revealing new physical effects as much as solving immediate industrial problems. This is an important part of how he thought. Many inventors focus mainly on making a better product for the market, but Tesla often seemed equally interested in discovering what nature would allow if the right conditions were created. His laboratory was not only a place for manufacturing ideas, it was also a place for uncovering hidden patterns in the behavior of matter and energy. He believed resonance was one of nature's deepest organizing principles. Resonance happens when a system responds especially strongly to the right rhythm or frequency, and Tesla saw this idea everywhere. He thought it helped explain how energy could be concentrated, amplified, and directed. To him, resonance was not just a technical trick. It was something close to a universal rule that linked many different machines and effects. The same way of thinking connected his motors, coils, oscillators, and wireless schemes. Even when the devices looked different, Tesla often approached them through the same underlying idea. If a system is tuned correctly, small inputs can create surprisingly large and useful results. This gave his work a kind of hidden unity. He was not simply jumping randomly from project to project. He was following recurring patterns that he believed ran through nature itself. Tesla filed patents in many countries, not only in the United States. This mattered because it shows that he understood invention not only as an act of discovery, but also as something that had to be protected and recognized across borders. Electrical technology was becoming international very quickly, and Tesla's ideas had value far beyond one nation. Filing widely also shows how seriously his work was taken in different parts of the world. Modern patent compilations account for at least 278 patents issued to him in 26 countries. That is a striking number because it reveals the scale and persistence of his inventive activity. It also shows that Tesla was not just associated with one or two famous breakthroughs. Across many years and many legal systems, he continued producing ideas significant enough to formalize and claim as inventions. Other summaries around his total worldwide patent count to about 300. Even allowing for differences in how patents are counted, the bigger picture stays the same. Tesla's output was enormous. That large number gives us a sense of how active his mind remained across different fields, and how often he tried to transform concepts into clearly defined, practical designs. Tesla's patent record shows that he was not a one-idea inventor, but a broad experimental thinker. Some people become famous for a single revolutionary creation, but Tesla kept moving into different technical areas. His patents covered motors, coils, control systems, turbines, lighting methods, and more. That variety reveals a mind that was always looking for new structures, new uses, and new paths of development. He repeatedly tried to convert laboratory effects into protectable, marketable inventions. That is an important detail because it shows that he was not only a dreamer lost in theory. He worked hard to move from experiment to application. When he noticed an interesting effect in the laboratory, he often tried to shape it into a practical device or system that could be patented, financed, and possibly built at scale. Many of his projects combined scientific exploration with commercial ambition. Tesla was curious about the laws of nature, but he also wanted his discoveries to matter in the world. He hoped they would become real technologies, not just scientific notes. This blend of exploration and ambition gave his work much of its energy, but it also created tension when the science was ahead of what investors or industry could support. Tesla preferred to develop ideas independently rather than as a conventional corporate engineer. He did not seem naturally suited to a routine role inside a large industrial hierarchy. He valued freedom in thought, design, and direction. This independence helped him think boldly and unusually, but it also meant he often carried more risk on his own shoulders than inventors who worked within stronger institutional structures. Even when he worked with industrial backers, he preferred intellectual control over his projects. Tesla wanted to guide the principles, the direction, and the deeper purpose of what he was building. He was not content merely to solve the technical assignment given by someone else. He wanted to pursue the full logic of his own ideas, even when that made projects larger, stranger, or harder to finance. He was famous for mentally visualizing machines before building them. Tesla claimed that he could picture devices in such detail that he did not always need to sketch them first. In his mind, he could examine their structure, observe their motion, and think through how they would behave. Whether or not every claim was as exact as he described, this habit clearly played an important role in how he approached invention. Tesla claimed he could run devices in his mind and detect flaws before constructing them physically. That is one of the most unusual descriptions of a design process in the history of engineering. Instead of relying first on trial-and-error prototypes, he said he could test ideas internally, almost like using imagination as a private laboratory. This ability, or at least this method, helps explain why he spoke so confidently about invention as an act of mental precision. This mental design process was one of the most unusual aspects of his working style. Many inventors build, modify, fail, and rebuild repeatedly in physical form. Tesla certainly experimented in the real world too, but he placed extraordinary trust in visualization. He treated the mind not just as a source of inspiration, but as a place where technical design could be refined before material work even began. Tesla believed imagination was a crucial engineering tool rather than a distraction from science. For him, imagination was not the opposite of accuracy. It was part of the path toward accuracy. He seemed to believe that the ability to see a machine clearly in the mind allowed an inventor to approach reality more deeply, not less. This is one reason his scientific image often feels different from that of more purely practical engineers. He often worked extremely long hours. Accounts of his life repeatedly describe him as someone who could stay absorbed in work for extraordinary stretches of time. This does not simply suggest ambition. It suggests a mind that entered deep concentration and found it difficult to leave. His working habits were intense, even by the standards of a period filled with driven inventors and industrial builders. Accounts of Tesla's routines describe him as intensely disciplined and highly repetitive in daily habits. His life was not only marked by flashes of invention, but also by patterns, rituals, and regularity. That side of him may have helped support the concentration required for difficult technical work. At the same time, it also contributed to the sense that his relationship with order and control went beyond the ordinary. He had a strong fixation on the number 3. This is one of the small details that people often remember because it feels so specific and unusual. For Tesla, numbers and repeated patterns seem to carry a deep personal importance. The number 3, in particular, appeared again and again in the habits he formed around movement, routine, and cleanliness. Tesla was said to walk around buildings 3 times before entering them. Whether understood as compulsion, ritual, or personal preference, the habit reveals how much structure and repetition mattered to him. It also suggests that his search for order was not limited to engineering systems. It reached into daily life, where even small actions could become governed by a kind of private numerical logic. He also reportedly washed his hands 3 times in succession. This fits the same pattern of repetition seen elsewhere in his routines. It suggests that for Tesla, certain actions did not feel complete unless they followed a repeated structure. Such habits help modern readers understand that his extraordinary mental life included not only invention and vision, but also very strong personal rituals. Tesla had an extreme dislike of pearls. This detail can sound almost trivial at first, but it became a well-known part of his personal image because the dislike was so intense. It was not a mild preference. It was a reaction strong enough to affect his social behavior. That tells us something about how sharply and specifically his mind responded to certain objects and sensations. He refused to talk to women who wore pearl jewelry. This was one of the stranger outward signs of his personal aversions. It shows how a private dislike could become a visible social rule in his daily life. Habits like this contributed to the reputation that he was brilliant, elegant, and highly unusual all at once. He was also known for unusual concerns about cleanliness and germs. In Tesla's era, understanding of disease and hygiene was evolving quickly, and many people were becoming more conscious of contamination. But in his case, the concern seemed especially intense. Cleanliness was not only sensible to him, it was tied to a larger need for control, precision, and order in his surroundings. These habits contributed to his reputation for eccentricity. Tesla was already set apart by his brilliance, his public demonstrations, and his grand predictions. But the small personal details, his rituals, preferences, and aversions, added another layer to how others saw him. They made him seem not only gifted, but deeply singular in how he moved through the world. Tesla wrote about his life and methods in an autobiographical series later collected as My Inventions. This writing matters because it gives us a direct window into how he understood himself. Rather than relying only on outside observers, we can see the way Tesla described his own thought process, childhood, struggles, and discoveries. It is one of the major sources for understanding his inner world. My Inventions first appeared in 1919. By that point, Tesla had already lived through his greatest early triumphs and many of his later disappointments. The timing matters because the work reflects both achievement and reflection. It is not just the writing of a young inventor explaining a breakthrough. It is the writing of an older man looking back across a very unusual life. In that work, Tesla described both technical breakthroughs and unusual mental experiences from childhood onward. He did not separate invention from the structure of his own mind. Instead, he presented them as deeply connected. This makes the autobiography especially valuable because it reveals how he saw imagination, memory, sensation, and engineering as parts of one continuous inner life. His autobiography helped shape the legend of Tesla as a visionary engineer with extraordinary powers of concentration. The book does more than record events. It reinforces the image of Tesla as someone whose mind operated in a rare and almost startling way. Whether one reads every description literally or not, the text clearly contributed to the lasting aura that surrounds his name. Tesla also enjoyed making bold predictions about future technology. He was not a man who stopped at the present usefulness of a device. Once he understood a principle, he often leaped ahead to imagine where it might lead decades later. This tendency made him fascinating to audiences because he seemed to stand partly in the current world and partly in a future one. He envisioned wireless communication on a global scale long before modern mobile networks existed. This is one of the most widely discussed examples of his forward-looking thinking. He understood that the movement of information might eventually become fast, broad, and untethered from direct physical lines. Even if his exact technical path differed from what later emerged, the direction of his vision was unmistakably large. He also anticipated systems in which information could be transmitted quickly over great distances. That matters because it shows that he was not only thinking about power, motors, and laboratories. He was thinking about human connection itself, about how people might exchange signals, knowledge, and messages across the world with increasing speed. This made his technological imagination social as well as mechanical. His technological imagination often jumped from a working device to a future civilization built around that device. This is a very important part of Tesla's style of thought. He did not stop at asking whether something could function. He asked how it might reshape daily life, industry, communication, and the wider structure of the world. In that sense, he thought like both an engineer and a civilizational dreamer. That is one reason later generations viewed him as ahead of his time. People often use that phrase too casually, but in Tesla's case, it captures something real. He repeatedly imagined systems and patterns of life that were broader than what his era could easily build. Even when some details did not unfold exactly as he expected, the scale and direction of his thinking still feels striking. Tesla's early work included improvements to electrical generators. This is easy to overlook because his later ideas were often more dramatic, but it mattered greatly. Generators are among the core machines that make electrical systems possible. Working on them shows that Tesla was not only drawn to spectacular effects, he also engaged with the practical machinery at the foundation of electrical infrastructure. He contributed to advancements in motors and transformers as well. Motors convert electrical energy into motion, and transformers make it possible to manage voltage for different uses and distances. These are not glamorous details to everyone, but they are essential pieces of the modern electrical world. Tesla's role in improving them helps explain why his impact was so deep and lasting. Tesla began his career working in telephony and electrical engineering in Europe. This early experience gave him a practical foundation before he became famous. He was not born directly into legend. He learned through real technical work in fields that were themselves transforming communication and power. Those early years helped sharpen both his engineering skill and his sense of what technology might become. He worked in telephony during the early part of his career. Telephony was a fast-developing field, and work in it exposed Tesla to problems of signal transmission, electrical devices, and system design. It also placed him near one of the most important technologies of modern communication. That background may have helped prepare him for the broader wireless visions he would later pursue. Tesla worked for Continental Edison before moving to the United States. This gave him experience within an important electrical organization and placed him directly inside the growing world of industrial power technology. It also linked him, indirectly at first and later more dramatically, to the Edison-centered network of electrical development that he would eventually leave behind. He emigrated to the United States in 1884. This was a major turning point because America at the time was becoming one of the most dynamic places for electrical invention, industrial expansion, and commercial experimentation. By moving there, Tesla placed himself at the center of a rapidly changing technological world. The decision opened the path to his most influential years. Upon arrival, he briefly worked for Thomas Edison. That brief period has become famous because of the rivalry that later defined both men in public memory. But it is also important on its own terms. It placed Tesla inside a leading electrical enterprise and gave him direct experience with the priorities, methods, and limitations of Edison's system. Tesla and Edison had disagreements that led Tesla to leave the company. This moment matters because it helped separate Tesla's path from Edison's and pushed him toward more independent work. Their conflict was not only personal, it reflected different engineering preferences, different ambitions, and different ideas about how electrical systems should be built and managed. Tesla studied engineering at the Graz University of Technology, but did not graduate. Even though he did not complete the degree, the period still mattered because it exposed him to formal technical education and advanced ideas in science and engineering. His later career shows that institutional completion was not the defining measure of his ability. What mattered more was how intensely he absorbed, developed, and applied ideas. He later attended Charles Ferdinand University in Prague for a short time. This brief academic period adds to the picture of Tesla as someone who moved through formal education without being fully contained by it. He continued learning, but his life would not follow a standard academic route. Instead, he became the kind of inventor whose real classroom was often the laboratory and the machine itself. He spoke multiple languages, including Serbian, English, German, French, and others. This multilingual ability tells us something important about the kind of mind he had. Language learning reflects memory, pattern recognition, and flexibility, all qualities that seem consistent with the rest of his intellectual life. It also helped him move across countries, institutions, and cultures during his career. He had an exceptional memory, often recalling entire books. This is one of the traits most closely linked to the image of Tesla as a mind of unusual power. A memory like that would have supported both his technical work and his wide-ranging intellectual interests. It may also help explain how he could mentally visualize and manipulate complex systems without depending so heavily on notes and drawings. Tesla often relied on visualization instead of drawing designs. For many engineers, sketches and written plans are the central tools of development. Tesla's reported habit suggests a different route, one in which inner representation came first and could sometimes carry much of the design burden. This made his method unusual, but it also fit naturally with the extraordinary memory and concentration others described in him. Tesla claimed he could mentally test inventions before building them. This did not mean he never experimented in the physical world. He clearly did. But it meant that much of his refinement process, at least by his own account, happened before metal, wires, and tools were involved. That approach gave his work a distinctive rhythm, beginning in the mind long before it took material form. He rarely kept detailed written notes compared to many other inventors. This is a striking contrast with figures who filled notebooks with sketches, calculations, and step-by-step records. Tesla seemed to trust his own internal process far more than many of his contemporaries did. While that may have suited his mind, it also contributed to the mysterious quality of his methods and the uneven record left behind. Tesla preferred working independently rather than in teams. Independence allowed him to follow his own logic without compromise, and that freedom was likely one reason his ideas could become so original. At the same time, working alone can also isolate an inventor from the practical support, correction, and institutional strength that large collaborations provide. In Tesla's life, that independence was both a gift and a burden. Tesla was known for working long hours with little rest. This habit reinforces the impression of a man who could become almost completely absorbed in a problem. Long working periods may have helped him move deeply into complex ideas, but they also fit the larger pattern of intensity that shaped his life. His brilliance was not only a matter of talent, it was also a matter of sustained and often exhausting concentration. Tesla lived much of his life in hotels rather than owning a home. This detail says a great deal about the kind of life he led. Hotels gave him services, routine, privacy, and a certain level of elegance, all without requiring him to manage a household in the ordinary way. For a man whose attention was often fixed on invention and theory, that kind of temporary but structured living may have felt more suitable than settling into a conventional domestic life. Some hotels evicted him due to unpaid bills later in life. This reflects one of the sad contrasts in Tesla's story. He was widely admired as a brilliant inventor, yet admiration did not always translate into financial stability. As his later projects struggled and money became harder to secure, even the refined hotel life he preferred grew difficult to maintain. Tesla was known for his precise daily routines and habits. He did not seem to move casually through the day. Instead, he often organized his life through repeated actions, fixed preferences, and personal systems. These routines may have helped him feel control and order, especially in a mind that was constantly occupied with large and complicated ideas. He reportedly slept only a few hours per night. Whether every number given in later accounts is exact or not, the larger point remains clear. Tesla often worked with unusual intensity and very limited rest. This contributed to his image as someone almost entirely consumed by thought and invention. It also suggests that his daily life operated on a rhythm very different from that of most people. Tesla avoided physical contact like handshakes. This was not simply a random social quirk. It seems to have been connected to his strong concern with hygiene, cleanliness, and perhaps discomfort with unnecessary physical contact. In public life, where handshakes were a common form of greeting, that choice made him appear even more reserved and distinctive. He had a strong dislike of pearls. The dislike was famous precisely because it seemed so sharp and specific. Tesla did not treat pearls as a harmless ornament he merely found unattractive. He reacted to them with real discomfort, which made this preference part of the strange and memorable pattern of his personal habits. Tesla preferred cleanliness and order in his surroundings. This fits closely with the rest of what is known about his routines. For him, order was not just practical. It appears to have been emotionally and mentally important. A well-arranged environment may have felt like an extension of the precise systems he valued in engineering and thought. He often dined alone at restaurants. This was partly a matter of lifestyle and partly a reflection of his personality. Dining alone gave him predictability, quiet, and freedom from interruption. It also reinforced the image of Tesla as someone who could be socially visible in public spaces while still remaining deeply solitary. Tesla had a fascination with the number 3. This is one of the most repeated details about his private life because it seems to reveal something about how his mind searched for order. Numbers and repeated structures appear to have carried emotional or symbolic weight for him, and 3 was the number that appeared most often in those patterns. He would walk around buildings 3 times before entering. This ritual is striking because it shows how an inner preference could shape an outward action in a very visible way. It was not just a passing thought. It became behavior. For Tesla, repetition appears to have created a sense of correctness, as though an action needed the right pattern before it felt complete. Tesla never married and remained single throughout his life. This decision became a central part of his public identity. In an era when marriage was commonly expected, Tesla's lifelong bachelorhood stood out. It added to the impression that he had set himself apart from ordinary domestic life in order to follow a more singular path. He believed relationships might distract from his work. Whether one agrees with that view or not, it shows how seriously he regarded his intellectual mission. Tesla appears to have thought that emotional entanglements and family obligations might divide the concentration he wanted to reserve for invention. In his mind, scientific work demanded a kind of total commitment. Tesla had a deep affection for pigeons. This is one of the gentlest and most human details from his later years. Birds, especially pigeons, became companions in a period of life that otherwise seems marked by increasing isolation. His care for them reveals an emotional softness that contrasts strongly with his austere public image as a severe and disciplined inventor. He cared for injured pigeons in New York parks. This was not a symbolic affection from a distance. He gave time and attention to real animals that needed help. That practice suggests patience, tenderness, and an ability to focus on quiet acts of care, even while his own life was becoming more financially and socially fragile. Tesla once described a white pigeon as especially meaningful to him. He spoke about this bird in terms so emotional that many readers have remembered the story for decades. The intensity of that attachment suggests how much feeling he invested in certain private bonds, especially at a stage of life when human companionship seems to have been limited. He often fed birds daily as part of his routine. This habit was not only about kindness. It also became part of the daily structure of his life. Like many of his repeated actions, it gave shape to time. In Tesla's later years, these routines with pigeons may have provided comfort, rhythm, and a sense of connection. Tesla's later life involved financial difficulties. This is important because it prevents the story from becoming too simple or romantic. Great invention did not guarantee lasting wealth. Tesla's later years show that even someone who helped reshape modern technology could struggle economically when projects failed, backers withdrew, and business structures shifted around him. Despite fame, he struggled to maintain long-term wealth. Public recognition and financial security are not always the same thing, and Tesla's life is a clear example of that difference. He could be celebrated, written about, and admired while still lacking steady resources. His fame was real, but it did not protect him from instability. Tesla died in New York City in 1943. This final setting matters because New York had long been central to his adult life and professional identity. It was the city of his laboratories, public demonstrations, patrons, hotels, and later solitude. In a way, the city had accompanied him through both his brightest public years and his quietest final ones. He died alone in a hotel room. This fact is often remembered because it captures the solitude that had grown around him by the end of his life. For someone whose work had helped power the modern world, the scene of his death was remarkably private and still. It stands in strong contrast to the scale of the systems he once imagined. Tesla was 86 years old at the time of his death. He lived long enough to see the world deeply transformed by electricity, including by systems he had helped make possible. Yet he also lived long enough to experience disappointment, fading influence, and the burden of unfinished ambitions. His long life held both extraordinary achievement and long decline. His belongings were later seized by US authorities for review. This happened because Tesla had made claims about advanced technologies, including ideas with possible military relevance, and because his death came during wartime. The review of his papers added another layer to his legend, making his final archive seem mysterious and potentially powerful in the public imagination. Tesla demonstrated electricity passing through his body safely. To the public, this could seem almost magical, as though he were somehow immune to electrical force. But the demonstration depended on controlled conditions and careful understanding of how high-frequency electricity behaved. It was a way of showing that electrical effects could be surprising and subtle, not only dangerous in the obvious ways people feared. Tesla often performed public demonstrations of his inventions. These events were not just lectures with dry explanations. He knew how to make invisible principles visible and memorable. By doing so, he helped people feel that they were watching the future take shape in front of them, not just hearing abstract theory. These demonstrations helped popularize electrical science. Many ordinary people did not have the technical background to follow equations or detailed engineering plans. Tesla bridged that gap by using light, motion, sound, and spectacle. He turned scientific demonstration into a public language that people could remember emotionally as well as intellectually. Tesla's contributions span electrical and mechanical engineering. This range is part of what makes him so compelling. He was not confined to one narrow specialty. His mind moved between systems of power, motion, vibration, transmission, and control, often linking them through shared physical principles like resonance and efficiency. He was also considered a futurist due to his visionary ideas. A futurist does not simply improve the present. He imagines what entire future systems might look like. Tesla repeatedly did this, sometimes with astonishing insight, and sometimes with ambitions too large for his era to support. That tension between accuracy and overreach is part of what gives his legacy such unusual depth. Tesla believed imagination was key to invention. For him, imagination was not decorative or secondary. It was a working instrument. He treated the mind as a place where mechanisms could be built, tested, and refined before they ever reached the laboratory bench. That faith in imagination shaped nearly every part of his creative process. He often conceptualized machines fully before building them. This goes beyond ordinary planning. Tesla described a process in which devices became almost complete in his mind before they existed in matter. Whether or not every claim was literal in the strongest sense, it is clear that mental structure and internal visualization played an unusually large role in how he designed. Tesla's social life was unusual because he could impress wealthy patrons in public while remaining personally isolated in private. He moved comfortably in circles of influence when presenting ideas or seeking support, yet he does not appear to have built a deeply conventional social world around himself. This split between visibility and solitude is one of the striking emotional patterns in his biography. He gave demonstrations to celebrities, investors, and prominent visitors in his laboratories. This means he was not hidden away from society altogether. He knew how to present himself to important audiences and how to attract curiosity from people with influence. His laboratories were not only research spaces. At times, they were stages on which science, persuasion, and image all came together. Tesla's public persona mixed elegance, technical brilliance, and mystery. He did not appear before the world as a rough workshop mechanic or as a purely academic scholar. He cultivated an image that felt refined, disciplined, and slightly distant. Lab style helped make him memorable and gave his public appearances a distinctive atmosphere. He was slender, formal, and carefully dressed, which reinforced his cultivated image. Clothing and posture mattered in the way he presented himself. He understood, whether instinctively or deliberately, that invention in public life was not only about machines. It was also about authority, impression, and the performance of confidence. Even his more extravagant claims often came wrapped in a polished, persuasive style. That made them harder to dismiss immediately and easier for audiences to remember. Tesla did not usually present himself as confused or uncertain. He spoke with conviction, and that confidence helped sustain both his real influence and, at times, the myths that later gathered around him. Tesla's fame rose early, but his finances remained unstable. This contrast shaped much of his later life. He had already done enough to be remembered as a major inventor, yet he did not build a secure commercial empire around his success. His story therefore resists the easy idea that genius automatically leads to prosperity. He was respected as a major inventor while also struggling to turn ideas into lasting wealth. This is one of the reasons his life feels both inspiring and sad. The world could recognize his importance and still fail to provide him a stable place within its economic systems. Admiration and practical security did not arrive for him in equal measure. Unlike Edison, Tesla did not build a long-term commercial empire around his inventions. Edison surrounded his work with large organizational structures, business systems, and manufacturing strength. Tesla, by contrast, was often more attached to principles, visions, and independent invention. The difference helps explain why their legacies feel so different in business history. In later life, Tesla often lived in prominent New York hotels rather than in a private home. These hotels gave him a kind of formal shelter that matched his preferences, but they also reflected the instability of his circumstances. Hotel life could seem elegant on the surface, yet it also meant living without the rootedness of a permanent domestic space. He stayed for years at the Waldorf Astoria. This detail reminds us that Tesla's life in hotels was not always shabby or desperate. At times, he lived in well-known and prestigious places, moving through environments associated with status and refinement. That makes the contrast with his later financial struggles even sharper. He later lived at the St. Regis, the Hotel Pennsylvania, the Hotel Governor Clinton, and the Hotel New Yorker. This movement from one hotel to another traces the arc of his later years. It suggests a life both urban and unsettled, still surrounded by the structures of the city, but increasingly dependent on arrangements that could change or collapse with money and circumstance. Tesla's hotel life reflected both his urban habits and his declining finances. Hotels suited his routines, his dislike of ordinary domestic management, and his solitary style. But as resources weakened, hotel living also became a source of vulnerability. The very arrangement that fit his personality could become unstable when bills mounted. He developed a pattern of leaving hotels with unpaid bills. This was not because he lacked intelligence about money, but because his later life was marked by the mismatch between his reputation and his financial reality. The pattern reveals the practical consequences of long-term instability. It also shows how difficult life became when new visions failed to secure dependable support. Financial pressure contributed to his eviction from some of those hotels. Eviction is a harsh word, and in Tesla's case, it underlines how far his circumstances had fallen from the image of celebrated inventor. It reminds us that public achievement does not erase practical vulnerability. His decline was not only symbolic, it had direct effect on where and how he could live. Tesla formed a deep attachment to pigeons during his later years. This attachment was not a minor hobby. It became a real emotional thread in his daily life. At a time when human relationships seemed to have grown thinner around him, pigeons became creatures to feed, protect, and think about with genuine feeling. He fed pigeons daily in New York parks and from his hotel window. These actions gave shape to his days and brought him into repeated contact with living creatures outside the formal worlds of investors, lectures, and inventions. Feeding birds may seem simple, but in an isolated life, such repeated acts can become deeply meaningful. He also cared for injured birds and nursed some back to health. This detail reveals patience and gentleness. Tesla is often remembered through lightning machinery and giant ideas, but moments like this show another side of him. He could focus with tenderness on fragile beings that needed attention and care. Tesla became especially attached to one white pigeon. The story of this bird has lasted because it reveals a strong and intimate emotional bond in a life otherwise marked by reserve. It suggests that Tesla's capacity for attachment was deep, even if it was not expressed through the ordinary social forms most people expect. He spoke of that white pigeon in deeply emotional terms. His language about the bird was so intense that it has remained one of the most revealing glimpses into his inner emotional world. It suggests loneliness, devotion, and the ability to form a bond that was both highly personal and quietly profound. His care for pigeons became so extensive that it caused practical problems in hotel life. What began as affection and routine eventually clashed with the expectations of hotel management and urban order. This is another example of how Tesla's private world and public circumstances often failed to fit neatly together. Complaints about pigeons were among the reasons his housing situations became difficult. These complaints sound almost small compared with the scale of his inventions, yet they mattered in daily life. They remind us that even a legendary figure remains subject to ordinary conflicts over space, order, and habit. Tesla's devotion to pigeons was one of the clearest signs of how solitary his later life had become. His emotional energy seems to have found one of its strongest outlets in care for these birds. That does not make the attachment less real. If anything, it makes it more moving, because it reveals how companionship can take unexpected forms in a life shaped by distance and discipline. In 1937, Tesla was struck by a taxicab while walking in New York. This accident was a serious event in his old age and marked another decline in physical well-being. For a man already weakened by years of intense living and limited stability, such an injury carried greater consequences than it might have for someone younger or more supported. He suffered broken ribs in that accident. Broken ribs can be painful, slow to heal, and especially hard on an elderly person. In Tesla's case, the injury added to the burden of his later years and reduced his strength further. It is one of the quiet but important physical setbacks near the end of his life. True to his habits, he refused medical attention. This decision fits the broader pattern of his personality: self-contained, disciplined, and resistant to ordinary intervention. But in practical terms, refusal of treatment likely made his situation worse. It shows how personal habits that once supported independence could also become damaging in old age. He never fully recovered from the injuries. That incomplete recovery mattered because it means the accident did not pass as a brief episode. Instead, it contributed to the weakening that marked his final years. It became one more way in which the body, like finances and reputation, reflected the strain of a long and difficult life. Tesla died in New York City on January 7, 1943. By the time of his death, he had lived through one of the most dramatic technological transformations in modern history, and he had personally helped shape it. New York had long been the center of his adult life, the city of his laboratories, lectures, hotel rooms, investors, routines, and final years. It was fitting, in a quiet and somber way, that his life ended there, in the same city where so much of his public story had unfolded. He was 86 years old when he died. That meant Tesla lived long enough to see electricity move from something new and contested into something deeply woven into modern life. He had witnessed an era of enormous industrial and scientific change, including the broad success of systems he had helped make possible. At the same time, his long life also meant he endured many years of personal decline, financial struggle, and distance from the center of technological power he had once occupied. He died alone in his room at the Hotel New Yorker. This detail is often remembered because it captures the solitude of his final stage of life. A man whose ideas helped power whole cities spent his last moments in a single private room, far from the scale of the systems he had imagined and built. The contrast between his influence on the world and the quiet isolation of his death gives his story much of its emotional force. His body was discovered after hotel staff entered the room despite a "do not disturb" sign. That small detail adds a human stillness to the moment. It suggests that his last days passed in privacy, without public ceremony, and that the end came quietly. For someone who had once dazzled crowds with electrical demonstrations, the closing scene of his life was marked not by spectacle, but by silence. The medical examiner ruled the cause of death coronary thrombosis. In simple terms, this meant a blockage connected to the heart and circulation. It was an ordinary medical ending in contrast to the extraordinary life that preceded it. That contrast is striking in Tesla's story again and again. A man associated with giant ideas, powerful machines, and dramatic energy ultimately died in a very human and familiar way. Because Tesla died during World War II, US authorities reviewed his papers and possessions. The timing mattered greatly. Governments were especially alert to anything that might have military value, and Tesla had long been associated with ambitious technical claims. So, after his death, his papers were not treated as the private remains of an eccentric inventor alone. They were also examined as materials that might possibly contain strategic importance. Official concern centered partly on whether any of his technical papers had possible military significance. Tesla had spoken in later life about powerful defensive technologies, and in a wartime atmosphere, such ideas could not simply be ignored. Even if some of those claims were exaggerated or incomplete, authorities considered it necessary to inspect what he had left behind. This helped add another layer of mystery to his legacy. Tesla's later claims about a powerful defensive beam weapon added to those concerns. In public discussion, this idea was sometimes described in highly dramatic terms, which only increased curiosity and suspicion. Whether realistic or not at the level Tesla imagined, the claim contributed to his image as someone whose mind still stretched toward large and potentially world-changing ideas even in old age. Sensational reporting in his later years often exaggerated how close some of his grandest ideas were to practical realization. Newspapers and popular accounts were often drawn to the most dramatic side of Tesla, especially when he made unusual predictions or spoke about powerful new devices. This created a distorted picture in which some ideas seemed nearer to completion than they really were. As a result, his public legend often grew faster than his actual late-stage engineering progress. Even so, many of Tesla's grounded contributions had already permanently changed engineering. This is an important correction to the myths. One does not need to rely on exaggerated stories to explain his significance. His real and verified achievements in alternating current, motors, high-voltage experimentation, and system design were already enough to place him among the major inventors in modern history. During his lifetime, Tesla received numerous medals and honors. Recognition came to him not only from admirers in the public sphere, but also from institutions that understood the importance of his work. These honors show that, despite financial struggles and occasional skepticism, many professionals and organizations clearly recognized the magnitude of his achievements. He received the Elliott Crescent Medal in 1894. This was a respected scientific and engineering honor, and it came during a period when Tesla's most important practical contributions were becoming widely visible. Awards like this reflected the fact that his work was not only dramatic in public demonstrations, but also deeply valued by serious technical communities. He received the Edison Medal from the American Institute of Electrical Engineers in 1916. This was one of the major professional honors in electrical engineering, and its importance lies not only in prestige, but in what it said about Tesla's standing among engineers. By this point, he was being recognized as a central figure in the field, even if his personal life had become far less stable than his reputation. That award is especially striking because it carried the name of his most famous rival. Tesla and Edison had come to symbolize opposing sides of a major technological struggle, so receiving a medal named after Edison gave the moment a special historical irony. It suggested that professional engineering culture could recognize lasting achievement even across famous rivalries and public narratives. Tesla was also honored with several European orders and decorations later in life. This shows that his reputation extended far beyond the United States. His work was seen as important not only by industrial organizations, but also by governments and official institutions in Europe. In that sense, he became an international scientific figure rather than merely a national inventor. His recognition came from both industrial institutions and national governments. That range matters because it reveals how widely his importance was understood. Some saw him as a practical engineer who changed infrastructure. Others saw him as a symbol of scientific brilliance and modern progress. Together, these forms of recognition show that Tesla occupied an unusually broad space in public and technical life. Tesla's reputation during his lifetime swung between admiration, skepticism, and celebrity fascination. He was never a simple public figure. People could see him as a genius engineer, a visionary prophet, or an eccentric showman depending on the moment and the project in question. This shifting reputation helps explain why his image has remained so layered and difficult to reduce to a single role. He could be treated as a heroic inventor in one moment and as an eccentric dreamer in the next. That instability followed naturally from the way he worked. Some of his ideas had already transformed the world, while others remained grand, unfinished, or difficult to verify. As a result, public opinion often moved back and forth between respect for his proven contributions and fascination with his more unusual claims. Much of that instability came from the sheer range of his ambitions. Tesla did not limit himself to one narrow field or one scale of problem. He moved from motors to wireless systems, from lighting to remote control, from practical infrastructure to planetary visions. That range made him exciting and memorable, but it also made him harder for others to categorize or fully trust. Some of Tesla's most successful inventions were practical and commercially essential. His work on alternating current systems, motors, and transmission belongs in this category. These were not speculative side ideas. They became part of the real machinery of modern life and industry. Their success shows that Tesla was capable not only of imagination, but of producing engineering with enormous lasting value. Some of his best-known failures were not technical failures alone, but financing failures. This is especially important when thinking about Tesla fairly. Not every unfinished project failed because the core idea had been fully disproven. In some cases, the effort collapsed because the scale was too large, the funding too weak, or the commercial path too uncertain. His story is partly about invention, but also about the fragile economics of invention. Wardenclyffe is the clearest example of that pattern. It was one of Tesla's most ambitious projects, and it remains famous precisely because it stood between possibility and collapse. The project came to symbolize the gap between his global imagination and the practical limits of investor patience, cost, and infrastructure. It is perhaps the best single example of how big ideas can fail for reasons beyond pure theory. The project failed before it could prove whether Tesla's full wireless vision was workable at the scale he imagined. That uncertainty is part of what keeps Wardenclyffe so interesting. The project did not run to full maturity and then fail under clear final conditions. Instead, it stopped before the central vision could truly be tested at the intended level. This left a space in history where legend could grow around an unfinished attempt. Tesla's life therefore became a story not only about invention, but also about the difficulty of funding frontier ideas. This lesson reaches far beyond his own time. Some ideas are so advanced, so broad, or so expensive that even brilliance cannot carry them forward without strong material support. Tesla's life shows that invention depends not only on imagination and science, but also on money, institutions, and timing. Even in the 1890, he was already thinking about wireless information networks that would span continents. This is one reason he still feels surprisingly modern. He did not merely imagine isolated wireless devices. He imagined systems of connection that would operate across great distances and reshape communication on a global level. That was an extraordinary leap for the era in which he was working. His forecasts helped later admirers see him as a prophet of the wireless age. The word prophet can be used too casually, but in Tesla's case it reflects the fact that some of his broad visions pointed toward later realities. He saw that the future of technology would involve greater invisibility, greater reach, and greater connection across space. Even when his methods differed from what later emerged, the direction of his intuition was impressive. Tesla also stands as a reminder that technological revolutions depend on infrastructure, not only inspiration. It is easy to focus on the dramatic image of the lone inventor, but large transformations require systems, networks, machines, standards, financing, and public adoption. Tesla mattered so much because he was involved in shaping these deeper structures, especially in electrical power. He did not simply invent components, he helped define whole systems. This is one of the best ways to understand his historical importance. A component can be useful, but a system changes the world more deeply because it shapes how many parts work together. Tesla's greatest achievements were often not isolated devices alone, but arrangements that helped electricity function at large scale. That is why power engineers still regard him as foundational rather than merely colorful. Many famous historical figures become larger than life in culture while fading in technical importance. Tesla is unusual because the technical foundation remains strong. Engineers still recognize that his work helped establish the architecture of modern power, not just the mythology surrounding it. The international unit Tesla is named in his honor. This means his name entered not only history books and popular memory, but also the basic language of science. To have a unit named after you is a sign of deep and lasting significance. It marks a contribution so central that future scientists and students continue to speak the name as part of measurement itself. In physics, the Tesla measures magnetic flux density, or magnetic induction. That may sound highly technical, but it refers to the strength of a magnetic field in a given area. Since magnetism was central to Tesla's work, especially his rotating magnetic field, the naming is more than ceremonial. It connects his identity directly to one of the forces that shaped his greatest engineering achievements. 1 Tesla is equal to 1 Weber per square meter in C units. This is the formal scientific definition, and while many listeners may not use it in daily life, it shows how precisely Tesla's name has been built into modern scientific measurement. His legacy is therefore not only narrative or symbolic, it exists in the exact language of physics. That naming is especially appropriate because Tesla's rotating magnetic field was one of his defining achievements. The rotating magnetic field helped make AC motors practical and powerful, and it sits near the center of his most enduring technical work. So the link between his name and a magnetic unit is not random. It reflects a deep connection between the man and one of the key physical principles he helped harness so effectively. Tesla's name is also attached to an IEEE Technical Field Award in electric power engineering. This shows that professional engineering culture continues to honor him in ways tied directly to his real technical legacy. It is not only popular culture that remembers him. Formal institutions in engineering still connect his name with achievement in the area he helped transform. The IEEE Nikola Tesla Award was established in 1975. That date matters because it shows his influence remained strong long after his death. Decades later, the engineering world still considered his work important enough to anchor a major honor. This kind of lasting institutional recognition is one sign that his contributions were not temporary or fashionable, but foundational. Its existence reflects Tesla's lasting importance to the generation and use of electric power. Awards of this kind are not created lightly. They are meant to recognize work that stands at the heart of a field. By linking his name to an award in electric power, the profession itself confirms that Tesla remains central to the story of how modern energy systems developed. Modern discussions of Tesla often over-focus on myths, but his documented engineering accomplishments are already extraordinary. This is worth emphasizing because public fascination sometimes drifts towards secret inventions, dramatic legends, or exaggerated claims. Yet the true, well-supported record is already rich enough to inspire awe. Tesla does not need embellishment to remain historically remarkable. He did not invent electricity, but he profoundly changed how electricity is produced, transmitted, and used. That distinction matters. Electricity as a natural phenomenon was studied long before Tesla, and many scientists contributed to understanding it. Tesla's greatness lies in helping turn that knowledge into systems that could serve society on a wide scale. He also did not single-handedly invent all of radio, but he made important early contributions that later proved historically significant. This balanced view is important because radio history includes several inventors and competing lines of work. Tesla's role was real and meaningful, especially in high-frequency circuits and wireless ideas, but it belongs within a wider story rather than outside it. Tesla's fame today often rests on a mixture of verified achievement and cultural myth-making. Both layers are now deeply intertwined. The verified layer includes major advances in engineering and power systems. The mythic layer includes stories, exaggerations, unfinished projects, and the dramatic style of his life. Understanding Tesla well means learning to see both layers clearly without confusing them. The verified part includes AC transmission, induction motors, the Tesla coil, remote control, and wireless experiments. These are not vague or legendary attributions. They are grounded contributions that historians and engineers can point to directly. Together they reveal a career of unusual breadth and depth, reaching from heavy infrastructure to advanced experimental devices. The mythic part often grows out of his unfinished projects and dramatic public statements. When a person is both brilliant and incomplete, legend has room to grow. Wardenclyffe, beam weapon claims, wireless power dreams, and other bold ideas gave later generations plenty to imagine. The mystery surrounding what he almost achieved became part of the fascination surrounding what he truly did achieve. Tesla's life therefore attracts both historians of engineering and admirers of visionary science. Different audiences are drawn to different parts of his story. Some study him for his role in the power grid and the AC revolution. Others are captivated by the grandeur of his imagination and the emotional force of his unfinished visions. Few inventors continue to speak so strongly to both groups. He has been described as a genius engineer who helped revolutionize the electrical age of the 20th century. That description is justified not because he worked alone, but because his contributions landed at key structural points in modern technology. He helped solve problems of motion, transmission, and scale that mattered enormously as electricity expanded into daily life. His central place in history comes from giving electricity a scalable architecture. This is one of the clearest ways to express his importance. A scientific effect becomes civilization-changing only when it can be organized, distributed, and used widely. Tesla helped make that happen for electricity. He helped turn a promising force into a system large enough for the modern world. Without scalable transmission, electric light and power would have remained far more localized and expensive. Cities might have had small, isolated systems, and industry would have developed differently. Tesla's work helped remove that limitation by making long-distance transmission practical and efficient. In this sense, his impact is not just about invention, but about access and expansion. Tesla helped solve that scaling problem. That sounds simple, but it points to one of the deepest achievements in modern engineering. Many technologies exist in small form before they change the world. The real turning point comes when someone helps them grow beyond narrow limits. Tesla was one of the people who helped electricity make that leap. His work connected scientific theory to the wiring of real cities. He lived at the point where abstract understanding met physical infrastructure. This is one reason his career remains so powerful as a historical example. He did not stay in pure theory, and he did not merely assemble machines without deeper insight. He moved between principles and systems in a way that changed actual urban life. It also connected motors to distribution systems, allowing electric power to do mechanical work efficiently. This was essential because electricity needed not only to travel, but to accomplish useful tasks once it arrived. By helping develop motors suited to AC systems, Tesla linked the movement of power through a grid to the motion of machines in factories and elsewhere. Tesla's influence, therefore, extended into factories, transportation equipment, and domestic appliances. Once electricity could be distributed effectively and turned into reliable motion, its uses expanded everywhere. His work reached beyond lighting into the broader mechanized world. It helped electricity become an engine of industry, movement, and daily convenience. He helped make electricity not merely visible, but useful on a mass scale. This may be one of the most beautiful ways to summarize his practical legacy. Electricity could dazzle before Tesla, and it could fascinate as a scientific phenomenon. But he helped make it serve the ordinary world in vast and organized ways. That is one reason his legacy remains so deep and enduring. His work connected scientific theory to the wiring of real cities. That is one of the quiet reasons Tesla matters so much. He was not only interested in beautiful ideas or laboratory effects, he helped carry electrical thinking out into streets, buildings, and urban systems, where theory became wires, machines, and usable power. In that sense, his work linked the invisible world of physical law to the ordinary built world people move through every day. It also connected motors to distribution systems, allowing electric power to do mechanical work efficiently. This was a crucial step, because electricity becomes far more useful when it does more than light a lamp. It can turn shafts, drive equipment, and power machines. Tesla helped build that bridge so energy could travel through a network and then arrive ready to create motion where it was needed. Tesla's influence, therefore, extended into factories, transportation equipment, and domestic appliances. Once alternating current could be transmitted and converted into useful motion, it opened the door to a much wider world of practical use. His influence was not limited to giant industrial installations. It gradually touched everyday life as well, shaping the machines that worked in workshops, public systems, and homes. He helped make electricity not merely visible, but useful on a mass scale. Before electricity became a dependable system, it could still amaze people as a scientific effect or a novelty. Tesla helped push it beyond wonder into service. He helped make it something communities could rely on, not only admire, and that shift changed the rhythm of modern life in lasting ways. Tesla's story is also an example of how invention can outrun business structure. A person may see far ahead, yet still struggle to build the financial and organizational support needed to carry an idea fully into the world. Tesla often imagined systems larger than the economic structure around him was ready to sustain. His life reminds us that vision and execution do not always advance at the same pace. He could imagine systems that finance and materials of his era could not always support. This is one of the central tensions in his story. His ideas sometimes reached toward scales that required more money, stronger industry, or more mature technology than the moment could provide. Because of that, some of his most fascinating projects remained suspended between possibility and incompletion. Even some of his failed ventures expanded the horizon of what engineers believed possible. Failure does not always mean irrelevance. Sometimes a project matters because it stretches the imagination of a field and forces people to think beyond accepted limits. Tesla's larger, unfinished efforts often had that effect. They suggested that technology might reach farther than many of his contemporaries had dared to expect. Colorado Springs, for example, became iconic, not because it produced a commercial product, but because it pushed high-voltage experimentation to an extreme. The site became important as a place where Tesla explored scale, resonance, and electrical force in unusually dramatic ways. Even without a direct consumer result, it entered history as a symbol of what intense experimental ambition can look like. Wardenclyffe became iconic, not because it succeeded, but because it embodied a very early vision of global wireless connectivity. It came to represent a future only partly visible from Tesla's own era. The project stood as a physical expression of his belief that communication and perhaps power might one day move around the planet through invisible networks. That dream, even unfinished, kept its power in memory. Tesla's public demonstrations made invisible forces feel immediate and dramatic to audiences who were still learning what electricity could do. This was part of his special gift. He did not leave new science hidden inside technical language alone. He found ways to let people see, hear, and feel the effects of these forces directly, which helped make a strange new technology seem vivid and real. He understood that a new technology often needs explanation, but also wonder. Facts and principles matter, but human beings also remember what moves them. Tesla grasped that if people could be amazed, they would also become curious. And if they became curious, they might become more ready to accept a new kind of world. He treated wonder almost like a companion to understanding. That is why he combined engineering with performance so effectively. He was not performing instead of doing science. He was using performance to reveal science. The public image of Tesla, surrounded by light, sparks, and unusual devices, was not separate from his work. It was part of how he communicated the reality and the potential of electrical invention. Tesla's style differed sharply from Edison's more manufacturing-centered path. Edison built systems of business, teams, and commercialization around invention, while Tesla often moved through ideas with a more solitary and conceptual intensity. The contrast between them helps explain why they have come to symbolize two very different ways of changing the world through technology. Where Edison built business systems around invention, Tesla more often built visions around physical principles. Tesla seemed deeply drawn to what nature might allow if a system were tuned the right way, while Edison was more consistently focused on turning invention into organized production. Both approaches mattered historically, but Tesla's path gave his life a more restless and unusual shape. Both men shaped modern technology, but in very different ways. One left behind a strong model of industrial organization and practical commercialization. The other left behind foundational electrical ideas, striking demonstrations, and a reputation for radical imagination. Their differences help show that history is often moved forward by very different kinds of minds. Tesla's rivalry with Edison has sometimes overshadowed his separate relationship with Westinghouse, which was crucial to his actual industrial impact. The rivalry makes for a dramatic story, but the partnership with Westinghouse is the part that most directly helped Tesla's ideas become infrastructure. That collaboration gave his inventions the industrial support needed to move into the electrical world at large. Without Westinghouse, Tesla's AC patents might not have become the backbone of a commercial system. Patents alone do not build power networks. They need manufacturing, financing, planning, and adoption. Westinghouse helped provide that path, allowing Tesla's ideas to move out of the realm of ingenious design and into the realm of public utility and large-scale use. Without Tesla, Westinghouse would have lacked some of the most important patents for a fully integrated AC network. This is why their relationship mattered so much. Tesla brought essential technical solutions, and Westinghouse helped turn them into operational systems. Together, they formed a connection between invention and implementation that shaped the future of electricity. Tesla's early motor patents therefore mattered not just scientifically, but strategically in corporate competition. Patents are not only records of invention. They can also determine who is able to build, sell, and scale a technology. In the intense contest over electrical standards, Tesla's patents carried both technical value and industrial leverage. The war of currents was not just a personality feud. It was a battle over infrastructure standards. That makes it more important than a simple story of personal conflict. What was being decided was how electricity would be delivered, organized, and expanded across cities and regions. Tesla's place in that struggle helped determine the long-term structure of the electrical world. Tesla stood on the winning side of that standards battle. Alternating current became the dominant method for bulk power transmission, and that outcome confirmed the practical strength of the system he had helped develop. The victory was not just symbolic. It shaped the actual architecture of electrical civilization. Modern electric utilities still reflect that victory. The systems that bring power over long distances into towns, industries, and neighborhoods still rest on principles that emerged from that earlier struggle. In that way, Tesla's influence continues quietly every day, built into the background structure of ordinary modern life. Tesla's life also shows that later fame does not erase earlier poverty or insecurity. Memory can make historical figures seem smooth and finished, but their real lives are often full of unevenness. Tesla's reputation grew, yet he still experienced instability, debt, and uncertainty. His story reminds us that public greatness and personal comfort are not always joined. He died admired by many, but not financially secure. This is one of the sadder truths of his biography. Recognition came, but it did not fully solve the practical difficulties of his later life. In some ways, the world understood his importance more clearly after benefiting from his work than it did while he was actually struggling within it. His afterlife in popular culture grew larger than his comfort during old age. Over time, Tesla became a symbol of genius, futuristic thinking, and misunderstood brilliance. Yet the real man spent his later years in far quieter and more difficult circumstances. That contrast between later legend and lived old age is part of what makes his story so affecting. Historical interest in Tesla has grown because modern audiences are drawn to inventors who seem both brilliant and misunderstood. Tesla fits that image strongly. He was capable of enormous practical achievement, yet he also carried unfinished ambitions, eccentric habits, and financial disappointments. That mixture makes him feel both admirable and deeply human. Yet Tesla was not truly forgotten in technical history, because power engineering never lost track of his role in AC systems. Even when popular culture did not always place him at the center, engineers still knew how important his work had been. His technical legacy remained alive in the field that depended so heavily on the systems he helped establish. What changed more was his prominence in wider popular culture. Over time, Tesla became not just an engineering figure, but a broader cultural symbol. He came to represent invention with imagination, scientific daring, and a certain lonely elegance. That expansion of his image helped bring his story to many new audiences. His image now often symbolizes invention that is visionary, elegant, and slightly rebellious. People see in Tesla a figure who did not entirely fit the systems around him, yet still changed the world. That symbolic role says as much about modern hopes and anxieties as it does about the man himself. Still, it grows from real features of his life and work. The strongest historical case for Tesla's greatness remains the ordinary electric infrastructure people use every day. Grand stories and dramatic images may attract attention, but the deepest proof is more quiet. It is the reliable movement of power through systems shaped by principles he helped bring into practical form. His greatness is written into routine reality. In that sense, his legacy is less a single device than a world made livable by reliable power. The clearest monument to Tesla is not just a machine or a portrait. It is the broader condition of modern life in which electricity can be generated far away, transmitted efficiently, and used almost everywhere. His work helped make that ordinary miracle possible. Tesla's induction motor alone had enormous long-term consequences because it allowed alternating current to do practical mechanical work. This meant electricity could become more than light and static charge. It could turn machinery with efficiency and durability, opening the way to far wider industrial use. That single invention touched countless later technologies. His transformer work and coil designs helped advance high-voltage experimentation. These efforts expanded what engineers could test and understand about electricity at greater intensity and greater range. Such work mattered not only for public display, but also for the deeper study of electrical behavior in more extreme conditions. His remote control demonstration showed that electrical engineering could extend beyond power into control systems. This was a subtle but far-reaching shift. It suggested that electricity could be used not just to energize machines, but to guide them from a distance. That insight opened a path toward later developments in automation, robotics, and unmanned technology. His wireless thinking showed that communication and power might one day be conceived at planetary scale. Tesla's imagination was rarely satisfied with local solutions alone. He kept asking what would happen if a principle were expanded across wider and wider spaces. This planetary habit of thought is part of what made his vision feel so unusual, even when its details remained difficult. His Colorado Springs research showed how far he was willing to push experimental apparatus in pursuit of that scale. He did not stop with modest demonstrations. He built larger systems, stronger discharges, and more ambitious environments for testing his ideas. Colorado Springs became a physical sign of how seriously he pursued large questions. His Wardenclyffe project showed how ambitious his final integrated vision had become. By then, Tesla was not thinking merely about one device or one line of research. He was trying to build a whole framework for worldwide connection. Even unfinished, the project reveals the extraordinary size of the future he was trying to reach. His later years showed the personal cost of spending a lifetime on very large ideas. Ambition at that level can bring brilliance, but it can also bring isolation, disappointment, and strain. Tesla's final decades show that a mind dedicated to grand systems may still struggle to find peace, stability, or full practical success. His affection for pigeons revealed a softer side that contrasts with the severity of his engineering image. People often remember the hard edges of Tesla's discipline, but the care he gave to birds reveals tenderness and emotional depth. It reminds us that even a mind devoted to machines can remain deeply responsive to small and fragile forms of life. His compulsive routines revealed a personality that sought order with unusual intensity. These routines were sometimes strange to others, but they also suggest how strongly Tesla was drawn to pattern, repetition, and control. The same desire for order that appeared in his daily habits may also have resonated with the elegance he sought in physical systems. His autobiography revealed that he saw invention as a mental discipline as much as a technical skill. For Tesla, invention was not only about tools, parts, and external experimentation. It was also about concentration, visualization, and the inner shaping of ideas. This gives his life a reflective dimension, as though invention began in silence before it reached the world. His public lectures revealed that he was also a gifted communicator of scientific possibility. He did not merely build devices and let them speak for themselves. He knew how to frame ideas, how to stir curiosity, and how to give people a feeling for what a new technology might mean. In that way, he was both inventor and interpreter of the future. His awards revealed that professional engineers recognized his achievements even when financiers did not fully reward them. This distinction matters. Market success and technical respect do not always align. Tesla's work could be deeply honored by those who understood its importance, even when money and industry did not always sustain him in proportion to his contribution. His patents revealed a mind that moved continually from one class of device to another. Rather than staying in a narrow lane, Tesla kept crossing between systems, methods, and scales. The patents show the movement of a restless mind that remained curious about many kinds of physical possibility. His unfinished projects revealed a willingness to chase ideas that were bigger than current industry practice. That willingness can look impractical from one angle, but from another, it is part of what made Tesla unusual. He did not confine himself to what already fit the system around him. He kept reaching toward what might exist beyond it. His career as a whole revealed that modern technology was shaped not only by businessmen and factories, but also by daring conceptual inventors. Tesla stands as one of the clearest examples of a person whose imaginative reach helped alter the world, even when the business world around him did not always know how to hold or reward that reach. Tesla remains one of the clearest examples of an inventor whose real accomplishments are impressive enough without exaggeration. Myths and dramatic stories often gather around him, yet the verified record is already extraordinary. He helped shape the practical electrical world in ways that remain visible through everyday life, infrastructure, and engineering. The most solid foundation of his fame is the modern alternating current power system. That is the quiet center beneath all the legend. The system that distributes power widely and efficiently, the system that made electrification broad and practical, is the strongest and most lasting proof of his importance. The most dramatic symbol of his fame is still the image of him seated calmly among artificial lightning in his laboratory. That image endures because it captures something essential: the union of intellect, control, spectacle, and mystery. It turns a difficult technical life into a single, unforgettable picture, one that still seems to glow with possibility. Taken together, Tesla's life joins deep scientific insight, bold engineering, theatrical demonstration, financial struggle, and an enduring influence on the electrical world. And as the story grows quieter now, it becomes less about sparks and towers and more about a patient current still moving through the world he helped shape, steady and unseen, carrying light into the distance.